Before the world ever chanted his name, before the lights, the fame, the victories, there was a man standing alone, staring at his reflection, wondering if he would ever be enough. Because the truth is, his greatest opponent was never in a ring. It wasn't a rival. It wasn't the world. It was the face looking back at him, and the life that seemed determined to break him. For decades, he would become a symbol of strength. A man who refused to fall. A fighter who kept getting up no matter how hard life hit him. People saw power. They saw resilience. They saw a legend. But what they didn't see was the quiet war behind it all. The one no audience ever applauded. He was born in a hospital room where something went wrong from the very first moment. A mistake during birth left part of his face paralyzed. His smile never formed the way it should. His speech came out uneven, strained, different. And from that moment on, the world noticed. Not with kindness, with judgment. As a child, he wasn't seen as unique. He wasn't seen as strong. He was labeled, dismissed, treated like something that didn't quite fit. Other kids laughed. They mimicked the way he spoke, twisted their faces to match his. And the pain didn't stop at school. At home, warmth was rare. Approval was even rarer. The place that should have felt safe instead felt distant, cold. Love didn't come freely. It came with conditions, if it came at all. As the years passed, that loneliness turned into something heavier, something sharper. Anger. By his teenage years, that anger had taken over. Fights became common. Not always because he wanted to hurt others, but because it was the only way to stop them from hurting him first. School after school pushed him out. Doors kept closing. And eventually, he was sent far away, to a place where everything felt even more unfamiliar. Different language. Different people. No connection. No support. Just silence. And in that silence, something inside him started to crack. There were nights that felt endless. Days that felt empty. Moments where he truly believed that if he disappeared, no one would notice. He stood at the edge of that thought more than once. But something stopped him. Not hope. Not comfort. Something more stubborn. A refusal to vanish. A quiet voice that said, "Not like this." When he finally returned, he didn't come back with answers. No plan. No stability. No safety net. Just a dream that, honestly, didn't make sense. He wanted to be an actor. Think about that for a second. A man who had been rejected his entire life for how he looked, for how he sounded, choosing a path where being seen and heard was everything. It sounded impossible. And for a long time, it was. Auditions became a cycle of rejection. Sometimes they didn't even let him finish speaking. Sometimes they didn't bother hiding their reactions. He didn't fit what they were looking for. So he took whatever work he could find. Cleaning, labor, anything that paid just enough to survive. There were nights he didn't have a place to sleep. Nights spent in public spaces, trying to stay warm, trying to stay invisible. And then came the moment that showed just how far he had fallen. He had a dog, his only real companion. The one presence in his life that didn't judge him, didn't leave him, didn't laugh at him. But desperation doesn't ask for permission. He sold that dog just to eat. That moment stayed with him. Not as a memory, but as a scar. By that point, most people would have given up. Walked away. Accepted defeat. But he didn't. Because somewhere, buried under all the rejection, was a story. And one night, that story finally found its way out. He was watching a fight. Not a perfect one. Not a polished performance. Just a man who wasn't expected to last, refusing to go down. Taking hits. Standing back up. Again and again. And something clicked. Because that wasn't just a fight. That was his life. That very night, he sat down and started writing. No distractions. No hesitation. Just raw emotion pouring on a paper. For days, he barely stopped. What he created wasn't just a script. It was everything he had lived through. Every rejection. Every doubt. Every moment of being overlooked. A story about a man nobody believed in, who still showed up anyway. When he finished, something shifted. For the first time, people noticed. Offers came in. Real money. Life-changing money. But there was a catch. They wanted the story. Just not him. They didn't believe he could carry it. They didn't believe audiences would accept him. So they told him to step aside. Take the money. Let someone else be the face. And this was the moment that defined everything. Because he said no. Again and again. Even when it meant staying broke. Even when it meant risking everything. Because he understood something most people don't. If he gave up that role, he'd be giving up himself. Eventually, they gave in. Not because they believed in him, but because he refused to back down. What followed wasn't glamorous. It was rushed, underfunded, uncertain, but it was real. Every scene carried truth. Every moment felt lived. And when it was finally released, something incredible happened. People connected, not to perfection, not to power, to struggle, to effort, to a man who didn't win because he was the best, but because he refused to quit. And just like that, everything changed. If you felt even a piece of that struggle, if any part of this story feels familiar, share this with someone who might need that reminder today. Because sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is simply keep going. But life doesn't stop testing you just because you made it. Success came. Fame followed. The world finally saw him. But pressure came with it. Expectations. Demands. The need to always be stronger, tougher, better. And while the world celebrated, something deeper was still unfolding. Because no amount of success can protect you from loss. Years later, life delivered a blow no strength could absorb. He lost his son. And in that moment, everything else became irrelevant. The fame, the legacy, the victories. None of it mattered. Grief doesn't follow rules. It doesn't care how strong you are. It doesn't fade because you've endured before. It stays. Quiet. Heavy. Constant. He didn't turn it into a performance. He didn't try to explain it away. He carried it, day by day, and somehow, he kept moving forward. Not the same man, but still standing. Over time, his work changed. His presence changed. There was less need to prove something, and more willingness to simply be honest. The strength people saw before was still there, but now it was different. Quieter. Realer. Because true strength isn't about never breaking. It's about continuing, even after you do. His story was never about being unbeatable. It was about endurance. About getting up when it would be easier to stay down. About holding on to something, anything, when everything else slips away. And maybe that's why his story resonates so deeply. Because it isn't perfect. It's human. So if there's one thing to take from all of this, it's not about winning every fight. It's about showing up for the next one. Even when you're tired. Even when it hurts. Even when no one is watching. And if this story stayed with you, take a moment to support it. Like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that strength isn't loud, and it isn't perfect. Sometimes, it's just one more step forward.